I mean, trust me, when I first got into tactical gear, I couldn't wait to buy the next type of mag pouch to throw on my kit to see how it all worked together. But eventually that excitement wears down. And now what I care about is taking more, slower stuff. I like class stuff now a lot more. I like to sit there in a class setting and digest all this stuff, then go into like a kill house and learn about different pieing techniques and how to do this sort of shit in comparison to just mag dumping like I once did.
You're listening to the Art and War podcast with your hosts, Mitch and Nathan. Mitch is a former airborne infantry squad leader who now spends most of his time coaching soccer. Nathan is a professional illustrator and an avid shooter with a couple of years of Canadian military experience. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Nathan, what happened?
Oh my god, So we are late to start recording today because I had a few drinks and decided to take a small little tumble down the stairs, I guess. It was an accident, kind of ashamed of it. Didn't have very much, but yeah, I went head first into some stuff, and here I am, 33 minutes after we were supposed to start recording. I'm sorry, Mitch. I ripped my shirt, and I've got all these cuts in my arm now, and that's not super great, but...
How many stairs did you fall down?
Shirt's gonna be replaced. Like 3, not very many.
So when you said that you're going to take this weekend to focus on Nathan's stuff, is that what you meant?
Unintentionally. I did not intend on going out yesterday, but it just kind of happened. Yeah, went with some buddies. My buddy Cole that sent a message saying, hey, let's go do, not Nathan stuff for a little while. Let's go have some drinks. You never leave. You never do anything anymore. We never see you because you're always working in this weirdo's basement. And yeah, no, this is why I don't go outside, because shit like this happens, Mitch. I'm staying inside forever now.
Well, I'm glad you learned your lesson.
It's comfortable and safe here.
Oh man, drinking a bunch of White Claw sounds like Nathan stuff.
Surprisingly, it wasn't. I had like a couple glasses of wine, and I met a weird IDF guy in a basement, and he gave me we went shot for shot. Oh, that's what happened. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that.
IDF. Israeli Defense Forces?
Yeah. Some guy, his name was Nikita. He was just there. Just came up in conversation.
What are the fucking Jews doing?
You're in a basement doing shots with IDF guy?
Yeah, what are the Jews doing in Canada?
I don't know, man. I guess they're here too, I guess. I mean, he was Ukrainian. He just happened to immigrate to...
What?
Yeah.
The Ukrainians are the most racist fucking people I've ever met in my life.
Oh yeah, he was super racist.
Yeah, they're incredibly racist. I was in Ukraine for a couple months. They're so fucking racist.
Have you ever met any IDF guys? They're fucking racist, man. Well, a lot of them.
I haven't met any IDF guys, but I can't picture...
Well, I've met 2, and they're both...
I can't picture a Ukrainian joining IDF. Rob, welcome to the podcast again.
Hey man, it's good to be here. What do you guys want to talk about? So much internet things to talk about.
So for context, Rob is a moderator for our tactical gear and also the founder of Operation Doggo Drop. For those of you that don't know what either of those are, I can't tell you much about the first one because I don't know much about Reddit, but it's a big Reddit community where people talk about gear and stuff. The second one, Operation Doggo Drop, is a really good cause where he's taking donations, and you're also doing, they're not necessarily raffles, but people that donate are entered in a chance to win a lot of prizes, a lot of cool stuff from a lot of different sponsors like Daniel Defense, AWS, Blue Alpha, Blue Alpha?
Yeah, Blue Alpha Gear, Defense Mechanisms, Arrow. I mean, the list is huge for that one. But yeah, that was kind of our big launch for Operation Dog Drop. It was a big giveaway. We gave away like $10,000 worth of products from all those companies. I know Mira threw some stuff in, Hard-Headed Veterans. God, I know I'm going to miss a few companies. I'm going to feel bad about it, but that's just kind of the way that these things go. And through that, we raised about 1/3 of the money for our first dog. So we started doing some drops with some people. We've got some t-shirt sales. So yeah, we're just doing everything that we can to raise money to purchase our first dog and hand it over to its recipient in December.
That's amazing.
Oh, thanks, man.
How much are you at now?
I would say total, because we have gotten some corporate donations. We're at about 16,000 out of the required 25 for our first dog. So we're moving pretty damn well.
That's awesome. So
Yeah,
so it's almost there.
yeah, almost there. We
I
just
like
need a little
the
bit.
merch drops you guys are doing.
Thanks, man. I'm really proud of the stuff that we've been able to put out so far. The nice thing is we've had a couple different groups come to us wanting to do these collaborative things, and basically the first one with Bread Percent was a great T-shirt. He came up with the design himself, real simple, real clean. I like the logo so much. I use it for other things now, including some hats we're going to have come out soon. And then our most recent drop with Firing Device Electrical M57 is a patch design that he did that I just,
Oh, the MacV
yeah,
dog.
dude, the McAfee dog patch is so sick. As soon as he showed me that original design, he had taken like the original patch and put like a dog emoji face over it. He's like, dude, I'm thinking about doing something like this. And I was like, that's absolutely perfect. Like, let's run with it. I don't know how many patches we've sold so far, but I'm really hoping that that gets sold out real quick.
So let's talk about kind of what Operation Doggo Drop is.
Sure, man.
Specifically, I mean, I know about it, but you're the founder. You tell everybody what it's about, what you're trying to do, what you're accomplishing.
All right, man. So through talking with you, I started learning more about, PTSD service dogs. And I'm the kind of person when, a little piece of information kind of is interest to me, I'll start deep diving on stuff. It's how I got into tactical gear in general. So I started hearing how excited you were about it. You were always super stoked every time we play Xbox or just talk in general. And from there, I started doing research. And it's like, man, these dogs, when people get these dogs, like it can be life changing. Retention rates of people staying in therapy go up. People coming out of their PTSD, not falling back into it, go up. It's such a quality of life improvement that it's like why isn't this bigger? Why isn't this being such a huge thing as it should be? And it's only now that, for example, the VA is going to be allowing PTSD dogs to be something that you can get through the VA. It's only very recently is that something that's happening. So seeing how you were able to raise fund for the dogs, I'm able to put together these other community events and stuff through the subreddit that I helped to moderate. Why not take these two elements, put them together, and now we can raise funds to really do something good instead of just posting memes, doing stuff like that online. Let's take this power that this community has, leverage it in a way that we can both make quality stuff for the community in terms of hats, drops. I'm planning on doing training classes with some big people in the industry, stuff like that. Take that, leverage it. Let's do some good with it. So that's kind of how we're at now. And through all that, you got to do official paperwork. So there is a nonprofit business that's operating, and we're really hoping to either have our 501c3 done this year or early next year, so that we're a fully fledged charity organization.
And this, to be clear, this isn't like an emotional support dog. This is a working dog.
Yeah, this is an absolute working dog. Through you, we got a hold of Fortress K9, that's where you got your dog from. And that's, one of the key elements of all this isn't just a dog that an online certification was done and you get to claim that it's something special. This is a legally recognized service dog specifically trained to help with PTSD. Now, when I say that, it's not a universal thing, just like AR-15s, just like any tool. It's very specific. So we've been needing to go through a process to find our recipient in order to make sure that the dog that we have lines up and goes with someone that is going to be appropriate for them and really help them out. Different dogs for different people, different types, different symptoms, different issues that arise from PTSD. So that's been one of the things that we've been working on, but we're really narrowing it down to the point that I confidently say that we have an awardee that we're just waiting to get the rest of the funds and waiting for December 15th to roll in.
Yeah, I mean, I can definitely say from personal experience that an emotional support dog would not have benefited me in any way. If anything, it would have made what I have worse, just because I feel like that would have been another responsibility that I would have had. So getting an actual working dog that can be an early detection to a medical condition and kind of put me in a place where I know I don't have to worry because she's going to do all the worrying for me and she's going to let me know if there's anything fucky going about is very different, and why these dogs cost so much. It's not like, and there's nothing wrong with emotional support animals. I want to be very clear. It's just a different purpose and a different job and different training for a different need. And having such a dog like I do, she's over there sleeping. She does much more, and she's not, like I said, an emotional support animal. I don't pet her and feel, more comfortable. She doesn't rub up against me and all of a sudden my anxiety is gone. That's not her job. Her job is to pay attention to our surroundings, because I paid attention way too much to my surroundings, to the point where I was taking away from my personal life with my family. It was taking away from me being able to focus and be present with my wife. And she is taking that role of being my eyes and ears and nose, and her senses are much more keen than mine, and I trust her. So having that peace of mind and going out in public is it's life-changing. If I'm being honest, it is very life-changing. So I am very grateful for my dog, and I'm very grateful to see that you're doing something that gives somebody else with a unique situation like myself the means of overcoming that with a great tool, because she is a tool. She's a dog, but she's a tool. She's not a pet. She still gets lots of love. She still gets to play. She still gets to go do stuff, but she is a tool. And you're giving that to somebody without the financial burden. Don't get me wrong. My dog Athena was worth every single penny, and I'm very grateful for the help I got through the community to raise money for that dog. I still ended up paying 8 or 9,000 out of pocket, I think, which I'm more than happy to. Worth every single penny. I would do it again. I would pay for it all myself. But it is very, very nice to see that, not just somebody, but you yourself are doing something to give that to somebody when, while removing that financial burden from them. And I think it's super exciting. I think it's super exciting because it's a very unique situation that is often misunderstood, maybe, or mischaracterized. It's very easy to slap the label of PTSD on a veteran, and maybe, PTSD and hypervigilance, I think, are very different things, or, any other condition that requires a dog like this. So it's very good to see, and I'm very happy that you're doing it, and happy to be, a small part of it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to help, man. I have a full on career outside of doing this, and to me, this is almost to the point of like an enjoyable hobby now. I get to build something, I get to meet and talk to really cool people, and I get to do something that I'm trying to slowly over time transition to. I really enjoy guns and gear. I am completely obsessed with it. It fills my time 24/7. To be able to build something up where I get to enjoy this aspect, I get to go out and do my LARPing. I get to have all this fun as part of a structure to do exactly what you said. $25,000 is a crap load of money. And it's not something that's easily obtainable by a lot of people, and especially of the people that really need these kinds of dogs. We can't give this dog to like a homeless vet with PTSD. That's not what that individual needs. This dog is meant for someone such as yourself. You have a stable life, you have a family that you're working on, you have a lot of the base elements together, and now we have to add a $25,000 purchase to help build this quality of life for someone like yourself. It's a really difficult task. That's either a monthly payment on par with like a car payment, or that's a ton of money that you got to come up with out of pocket that could be used for your college, your kids' college fund, stuff like that. So it's really exciting to be able to leverage this community, build a hobby that's enjoyable for myself. And then at the end of it, I mean, how much fun is it to give away, gifts on Christmas? So how much fun is it going to be to show up to the, training of the dog with its new owner, help out with that, and then see all that go down?
So let's talk about how you were able to facilitate all this. You became a moderator on our tactical gear. And what was going on at the time? How'd you get involved with that? Because it's a very big platform. Reddit itself is very big. I don't understand it still. I know you've tried to explain it a little bit, and I'm sure if I got on there, I could figure it out.
Yeah.
But how did you get involved in being a moderator for such a large community?
Honestly, man, there's a lot of stuff that went into it. I think the biggest one was I enjoy this kind of work. Prior to what I currently do, I spent a lot of time working for Parks and Rec, literally doing community building. I've run large online gaming servers in the past, so it's just something that I enjoy doing, something that I'm pretty familiar with. At the time, it was kind of a small community. It was kind of going through kind of a schism with some of the moderator team, and the head mod booted a bunch of people out. It needed some sort of rudder and direction. So I just sent a message to them saying, hey, I've done community building in the past. I really like tactical gear. I just want to jump in and help start kind of getting this thing in a direction where it's not total chaos and madness, and it can really refine itself into an actual community. From there, I got brought on board. And at this time, we were kind of right at the beginning of COVID. And at that time, I was doing in-home kitchen design consultations. That industry completely died. I had to live off savings, didn't work for a while. But all that time of being able to sit around the house was put into making contacts in the industry, coming up with a refined viewpoint for the subreddit, getting it a little more streamlined, putting some ground rules in place, and then it just slowly snowballed together. We started out with some really small giveaways, patches from small companies, stuff like that. And then we ended up getting a lot of help from our first big company, which was oddly enough, Spiritus Systems. They gave us a microfight. We saw a huge explosion in the subreddit because we started getting attention from big companies. And then from there, other companies like AWS started falling into the fold. Aero Industries, they're one of our earlier companies that we worked with, as well as RMA. From there, you just get stuff done. You prove that you can handle stuff. You prove that if a company gives you a product to give away, that you're going to give them some value back. And then from there, it just kept growing and growing until it was like, hey, man, if we can do that, why not start Operation Dog Drop and go from there? Because we've done some big stuff on the Reddit, man. We've had meetups. We've done huge giveaways, and now we're kind of moving on to charitable stuff.
How's it going, people? This is BR here, the producer of the Art and War podcast, to tell you about the lads' Patreon. Not only do we want to continue improving the quality of what we can do both here on the show and on Instagram, but we also want to elevate what we can do as a team. We are looking at pursuing some life-changing goals like acquiring property together and expanding what we can do massively in the future. It's a lofty goal, but one we want to include our audience in to let you know where your greatly appreciated support is going. But what's in it for you? Our Patreon subscribers enjoy 5 different tiers of exclusive perks ranging from all of the content the lads would post on a pre-Zuckerberg Instagram, downloadable high-resolution guides, behind-the-scenes info like guest schedules, spicy memes, and at our highest tier, get monthly art commissions created by Nathan himself. You can find our Patreon via the link in this episode's description or in the Seaburn Art Page's bio on Instagram.
So, Rob, how do you come to terms with the fact that Reddit is just a terrible cesspool full of just the worst people?
Shit, man, that's not a lie, dude. It sucks. Basically, I just limit where I go.
I know. I'm not on Reddit because of that.
Yeah, I really limit where I go.
And because, I like to go outside.
Yeah, I like to go outside too, man. People spend way too much time in front of screens.
I'm sorry, I'm being facetious. It's not a rag on you. It's a rag on Redditors in general.
It's how I view Reddit, man. Reddit is essentially, you guys have been on forums and stuff like that. Well, back in the day of early internet, you would go on this forum for this forum for this forum for this, different forums based on whatever your tastes were. Reddit is essentially a forum system where you can create your own forum, and it's all put into one place. So if I want to look at tactical gear, I can go to the tactical gear portion that has its own rules. It operates in its own manner. It does its own thing. If I want to look at AR-15s, I can go look at that. If I want to go look at, anime drawings, I can go look at that. I don't know why you would, but it's there for the viewing. Reddit started to suck. Shit, man. It was quite a while ago. I would say it was during the first major election with Clinton versus Trump. And at that point in time, they really started just cutting out and destroying all kinds of communities. We Can Gun It, that got knocked down.
I remember hearing about that. Like,
yeah, they just kill it, man. If you got wrong
a
think
lot
on
of places
Reddit,
got banned.
they destroy it. But how do I reconcile the two together? Really, it just comes down to making sure that all the rules are followed. Reddit's pretty stringent on the rules. I can proudly say that we've never had anyone from the upper admins ever reach out to us with any issues with content. So I'm not expecting it to go anywhere. But as we see this march towards the killing of wrongthink and kind of the reptilian overlords trying to cut down those bridges that bring us all together, and that ability to view content from one side to the next, it will eventually go down. I hope not, but I've got stuff that I'm working on just in case it ever does.
So you joined our tactical. You started doing all this cool stuff. We're kind of going reverse chronological order here. What got you into tactical gear? What got you into guns? When did that begin for you? What's your origin story?
The gun origin story, man, that was Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts got me into guns, dude. 25 yard, 22 range with the little pinhole sights, doing like the NRA qualifications and stuff like that. That's what got me into guns. I grew up in a super anti-gun house. It still is in many ways. My mom eventually kind of turned the other thought on that, and she actually bought her own gun, which I'm super proud of, and that's all due to the riots and stuff.
Oh, that's
But
amazing.
for me, it was just Boy Scouts, man. Yeah, I was pretty proud of her, dude. I grew up in a super anti-gun house. I got grounded once because I bought a BB gun off a friend of mine, and I needed to be punished for buying black market firearms.
Same.
So it's just a little pump action Crossman, dude. Just throw a couple little pumps in there. But yeah, that was a big no-no back in the day. But that, man, Boy Scout camp, dude, everything, man. First time I saw somebody shoot black powder, I couldn't believe what I saw. It was like magic. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. And it's just been an obsession ever since then. To the point that when we moved to New Orleans from California and we kind of escaped California, which the greatest thing I ever did was leave that fucking state, man. I didn't realize it at the time, but holy crap, what a great place to live Louisiana is. My first gun that I bought was a little bolt action 22, similar to what I bought in the Boy Scouts, simply because I've been so obsessed with doing that for years, just shooting a little 22 at a close range target.
It's funny. I tell the story about how I got into guns all the time with that little 22 that my stepdad gave me. But I find it very interesting how so many people, have same but different stories. It starts with a BB gun or a 22, or it starts with video games, or it starts, just it's all kind of same but different, and then people become very relevant, contributing to the gun culture and gun community, and you do that through Reddit. I don't know any of the other moderators, and I'm sure they're nice people, but they can get fucked. You're the coolest one.
Yeah, they're good guys, but I'll take that. I think I'm the coolest one.
Are they going to listen to this?
I don't know. We'll find out. I'm sure I might hear about it or not. I know a lot of people in the community will. I mean, that's how you and I first started talking. I started seeing people just straight up.
Yeah, fucking cartoons. Everyone.
Yeah, I know a few people here or there. I know some cool people though. It's been a lot of fun. Really doing this whole thing, and that's been the biggest joy for me. Is Jesus, man, I get to give away an upper from Daniel Defense. Do you know how fucking cool that is, just in the context of itself?
So you're doing yourself a bit of a disservice here when you say you just know a lot of people. Let me give some context to Rob the person outside of Reddit. Rob the person outside of Reddit. Picture, You know how there's like a spider web, how they usually make it like in a giant circle? So picture that giant circle being like all different types of people and relevant gun companies or just tactical companies and communities and people. Rob is the webbing in between all that circle that attaches everything to everybody. Rob knows all the people, all the things, all the companies. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have had our sponsors for this show. That's how he put us in touch with them. He's
I'm sure that
essentially
they're not regretting that. I'm sure that, especially after this episode, they will not be regretting sponsoring us.
Oh man,
we'll
you guys
see if
are in
that
for
first 20 minutes gets kept in.
Yeah.
But no, I mean he is essentially the plug or the hookup. You need to talk to anybody from anything, unless it's those guys over at Leviathan that charge $5,000 to talk to people.
Oh man, what a fun company. I don't know if we should talk about them.
But,
No, lawyers might start coming our way.
No, we don't got to talk about them. I'll just say that though.
Oh wow, this really
crazy.
is the last episode of fucking Art and War. We can just go all out at this point. You know, I really fucking hate Italians. We've gone down that bit. I don't actually hate Italians. It's just funny to rag on.
Well, it's funny that you hate Chinese people and you're Chinese.
Well, I'm not entirely Chinese. I'm just a little bit. Technically, I'm Malaysian. If you want to get fucking into it.
This is a terrible episode
yeah,
for
it is.
Operation Doggo Drop. This is supposed to be about
Man,
charity,
you fucking know.
giving to
Have
people.
you
good
ever had
causes.
to deal with Asian tourists? Because I swear to God, they're the fucking worst.
I lived
they're the
in
worst.
New York. There's all different types of people. That's how we
Yeah.
have like the 0.5% of Jewish people that are Hasidics. That's how we have them in New York. We have
Well, you
Asian
know what?
people.
You hate Hasidic Jews. I hate the fucking Chinese.
I don't hate. Yeah, but I don't think we hate them because they're Chinese or because they're Hasidic. I
Yeah,
think
but it's
we
a
hate
lot
them
funnier
just
just to
because
say that. If you speak in a generality, it brings the shock humor aspect in, and you know, people. There's no nuance these days.
No nuance, man. You're either Dave
You know,
Chappelle or you're
when my
not.
fucking Chinese family came into town to God, this is years ago. I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast or not. They came by my work, and I was working for like a boutique credit card company at the time. I saw them coming because it was in a mall. So I hid in the back room for half an hour until they fucking left. Just asked my coworkers to say that I wasn't there. I don't want to be seen with them. They don't tip. They make a mess. They're the worst. I wish I could like now I'm being asked to be racist off the top of my head, and I can't do it because there's just so much that all of it wants to come out. But all I can say is fuck them. To be clear, this is just like the first generation fresh off the boat people. I feel like after like everyone I knew is second or third generation is pretty fucking cool. Well, some of them are, some of them aren't. But you know,
that's just people.
Yeah, that's just people.
Honestly,
But,
some of the most
my family fucking
patriotic
sucks.
people I've ever met are second generation, like Chinese people and stuff like that. Like one of my buddies out in New Orleans, he's second generation. Dude, and that guy is like red, white, and blue. Fuck anything authority. Like I should be able to own rockets and fucking tanks and shit like that. Yeah. I don't know, man. They know what it's like to live under communism and stuff like that.
Oh, I fucking agree. It's the people who come from or have ties to, and I think maybe that's part of the reason that I'm so anti-authoritarian. Like a lot of my mom and her family escaped China when they were very young. And she lived in the Muar province in Malaysia, and the stories that come out of there, not great. She never liked to talk about it very much, but that whole like worshiping authority aspect kind of came with her. And I remember a conversation once that we had, and I was pretty young. I think I was 17. My thoughts hadn't really formed. I hadn't exactly fucking read Lysander Spooner or fucking Henry David Thoreau at the time, but I knew enough to distrust fucking governments. And I asked her just the question. I can't remember the context. It came up naturally. Do you think the government should be able to check all our emails? And she goes, yes, that if I've got nothing to hide, if that's how they keep us safe. And like the scars of the old world and the the sort of complete blind trust and authority and for the greater good came with her. And it's like that with a lot of the family. Or maybe that's just, her generation. I don't know. I don't frankly care. I just think it's the worst.
I mean, they've got all that stuff figured out, man. I always tell people human knowledge expands like a balloon. Everything that we learn is all at the same time, and is technically as advanced as we are for stuff like tech and stuff like that. We're just as advanced in terms of like social engineering and stuff like that. Stuff like that is taught and brainwashed into you as a kid. So it becomes your natural instinct. We're like, well, yeah, of course, why wouldn't we have an authority figure watching out over all of us, especially if that's the lens that you view the world through and that you've been taught to view the world through. It's difficult to crack through it. I think that's like the biggest quandary that we're experiencing now in our generation is we're seeing tons of people come out of, schools and stuff like that, basically educated to believe that the way to fix our problems are to continue to burn the fires of this bureaucracy that creates so many of them.
I think, though, getting back to Rob, Athena Plutz, what she's doing. Getting back to Rob, though, he is, and I mean, you are kind of the person that connects all the dots between all these different folks. And you don't charge $5,000 just to talk to people, Leviathan. But with that, do you think, because you can't be the only one that does it. I feel like there's a lot of people that kind of like work in the shadows that are the connections between, businesses or people. Do you know of any, is there like a little network of you guys that all kind of like get together? Because like I'm thinking of it like how I think of soccer scouting. So soccer scouting, me and hundreds of other scouts across the United States, Canada, and South America, we all share this one online cloud, kind of like storage device, and we upload, points that we saw with different players in different regions doing all types of different things. And then, people we've never spoken to can go in and look at that and see what's going on. Is there like a little network of people like you that kind of connect the dots between people? Because I imagine while you have these connections directly with other companies, maybe, and people, maybe you don't have it with, some other folks and some other people, but somebody that kind of does the same thing that you do behind the scenes. Is there like a whole network of you folks? Is it just you that you know of? Because I feel like that's a really valuable job. Like if I was a company, right, that wanted to focus on cross promotion, I'm contracting you in. If I hear about you, I'm contracting you in. I'm being like, hey, these people, be the connection.
I don't know if I'm sure there are people that do what I do. I'm sure there are people that do it professionally as well through various companies or being hired by a company. I think for me, it's just, I enjoy doing this. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy meeting new people. And then through my current work and what I've done in the past is you need to take components of people that you know and put it together to create a product at the end. So for example, when it comes to kitchen design, I need to be able to design it, deal with wholesalers for the product, deal with installers, deal with delivery people. So I need to take all these contacts that I know, put them all together into a finalized piece. So I think that's what it is. I think it's just I make friends at places. I like talking to people. And then through that, it gives me the opportunity to take these ideas that I have and put them together. For example, through the subreddit, I wanted to see if it was possible to get enough people together for us to have a community meetup. Other subreddits have had community meetups. So we talk about gear, we talk about guns, we talk about training. Why not put it together? I had already been training with Paul at 4G Tactical for a while. So they're someone that I've, have a history with. There's someone that I know. There's someone that I've talked to. Leverage that friendship, leverage that relationship that we have in order to create something for other people to participate in. And through doing that, knowing him, knowing some other people, knowing a couple sponsors that were able to help out, 37 people from across the United States were able to come out and take, a weekend's training in a community meetup. And I mean, for me, that's the thing that I'm really one of the most proud of in terms of the subreddit, because there were people there that I know were straight up, Q-tard fanatics. And there are people that were there that were straight up from Portland, having gone to like protests and stuff like that. And yet, for a weekend, these two polar opposites that we see in the media that supposedly can't get along, that supposedly has nothing in common, were able to come together through this love of guns, shooting, that kind of American spirit. And people that generally would hate each other were best friends for a weekend. That dialogue was opened up and able to happen. So, for me, that was kind of a shining star moment.
Well, I mean, it's community building. And we talk about it all the time. If you remove social media and you put, two people on the opposite sides of the political spectrum, I mean, in some cases, obviously, they'll be at each other's throats. But in the other sense, if you have, two reasonable people that just have different political beliefs and you put them in the same room, they're going to have a lot in common. They're going to be people. They're going to interact. Nobody's looking necessarily for a fight unless you're in a large group of folks or if you're online. And online, it increases this polarization.
Yeah,
It,
anonymity, not being able to put a face or a personality
yeah,
to a view.
and when you eliminate that and you get them in person doing something, something as awesome as shooting guns, because we talk about it all the time. Gun ownership and training is important, and it is definitely something that should be a focus. But one common thing that I think all gun owners can relate to is that shooting guns is fun. It's just a fun
Yeah,
thing to do. Yeah, the training and the tactics is fun, but just going out there and just shooting guns with people, like, that's just a lot of fucking fun.
yeah,
So if you can take people on the opposite side of the spectrum, be it politically, socially, whatever have you, and get them together, you're going to kind of not completely tear down those walls, but you're going to start, chipping away at this belief that the other side is domestic terrorists, or the other side should be labeled domestic terrorists, or they're racist, or they're woke, or whatever have you.
yeah.
And I
People are
think,
individuals.
yes, and that's something that I think you're doing more often. Not just with the Reddit. You did it online with Reddit. You kind of established some type of structure when it comes to, that subreddit. And then you did it again in person with this meetup, and I'm assuming you're going to do more meetups in the future, more, building relationships, tearing down these barriers. And now you're doing it as well with Operation Doggo Drop, where you're taking a community of, gun people, or just tactical gear enthusiasts or preppers, or all different types of people, all different types of life that come from all different types of places to come together for this one common goal of helping out another person. And I think having that skill set to build those relationships and having the patience to organize and make these connections happen, it takes a lot of time. And I don't know if I could do it. I can be a personable person if I need to be, but I find that as I'm getting older, I care less about it, because I kind of have my people, I have my family, I have my friends. Even when, for example, somebody follows a page and messages us that might be, somebody that's more relevant than another person, I message Nathan and I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? Why does he have like 200,000 followers? Like, I don't fucking care who this guy is. And Nathan is like, holy shit, this is like so and so. And I'm like, I don't fucking know this person. So I'm kind of apprehensive as I get older to build those connections. And that's what has me so interested in how you do it. Um, it takes, at least for me, maybe it doesn't for you, maybe it's easier for you. For me to build and maintain the amount of relationships that you have, it would be way too mentally exhausting for me. Like, I wouldn't be able to do it. And I know I wouldn't be able to do that. And that's where I think that skill set is valuable. Because if I'm a business owner,
For
or
me,
if I'm just a company, or if I'm just a relevant figure that, likes cross promotion, that likes the benefit of working with other people, but I don't have the time to do it, you're the perfect person. Like, that is such a unique and valuable skill set to have. And not everybody can do it. Some people think they can do it and they're just socially fucking awkward, and then it's just weird, you know. But you have these connections, you have these friendships, you have these relationships, you have experience building community. It is such a valuable thing to have. And like I said, if I was a business owner, if I was a business owner, I'd be like, hey, Rob, I'm going to contract you out, or I'll even hire you. And you're just going to be the fucking, I don't even know what job that would entail. You're going to be the, you're going to be the fucking, uh,
Put it together,
I don't know,
guy.
partner manager, business manager. I don't fucking know.
It going back to one of the things that you said. I think people have way more in common than what they think. And I actually think that people, if you were to overlap your average leftist and your average rightist, a lot of the grievances that they have are the exact same. The difference between the two is the lenses by which they feel the solution comes from is a little bit different. And for some reason, the reptilians and the media and stuff have done such a good job at almost turning like our whole political process into like the NFL. You know what I mean?
I know you're saying it as
It
a
literally,
joke,
it's
but
like
that kills
sports
me every
now.
time you fucking say it.
Oh, the reptilian overlords say, I don't know, like, because dude, like it's like being an
Yes.
agnostic. I don't know who's running the strings. I don't know who's pulling the strings on all this nonsense, but clearly there are strings there. You know what I mean? Everyone sees them; they're clearly
Yeah.
there. I don't know who's doing it. So, dude, just whoever the reptilian overlords are, man,
It's
fuck
the
'em.
reptiles.
Straight up, fuck them. The reptiles, dude.
I
They're
for
just
one
out there shape
welcome our new
shifting.
overlords.
Um, when it comes to the community thing, man, I don't see it as a job, dude. It really is a passion for me. I think people don't know what they don't know, and I think people don't understand just how much of gun culture we've lost in this country. It's literally it's vilified. Even if you go up to a random group of strangers and you say I'm a gun guy, there's such a negative connotation that immediately arises from people with that. I really feel like we've been stripped and we've been robbed of our gun culture, of our gun community, which is why we're on such a defensive posture and back foot. So for me, part of this is just rebuilding that. Why don't we have like a Comic Con of guns? Like I understand we have SHOT Show, but why do we not have large annual trainings that people come out to that have major sponsorship support, that have trade shows built right there, that have classes that
What
you can take?
about TriggerCon? There's actually a few that are doing really well.
Yeah, and I know
There's TriggerCon.
primary and secondary was working on one. There's a couple other people, but these are
Yeah.
in my opinion in their infant stages. Like look at Comic Con. Look how huge that is.
Yeah.
People fly out from around the world. They buy tickets on an annual basis, have hotels pre-preserved in order for this communal thing to happen. And what we're seeing is just the
Yeah.
baby steps of that starting in the gun community. And I think that's because we're seeing a
Yeah. I do see it
huge
getting bigger
yeah,
fast.
I think so. I think what we're
Like
seeing is a big
weirdly
research,
fast.
like a big almost building of like gun culture 3.0. I think people have realized people are tired of it. They went, man, if shit, dude, 5 years ago, if you wanted to do any sort of action shooting, you were going to have to go to like one of two organizations that were fairly funny to do any sort of action shooting. Nowadays, everyone and their
Yeah.
fucking mama has a training class that they do. I mean, the one that I do like once a month, it's less training and more of just to show up and do some action shooting for a day and pay a couple bucks to the organization. So I love watching it grow, and I think it's because people see that we've been robbed of our culture. I mean, that used to be a thing of pride. People used to talk about how great of a shot they were. They would talk about which of the Apollo astronauts would hand load his own rounds to get that much more accuracy out of it in major publications. And now anytime that you even see anybody with a gun, it's to try to prove this facade of, the fat redneck yokel who just wants to blow away deer and
Yeah.
hate people.
Yeah, I know so many people are like, oh, the gun owner. They're almost definitely like they fall into this very specific statistical category. Whereas we're seeing in real time that's not really the case anymore. But
Especially
like,
nowadays,
there's
dude, since
millions
COVID,
of action.
it's been an explosion of gun buying.
Yeah.
People like, dude, there are
Yeah.
gay gun organizations are growing so fast. Women's gun organizations are absolutely exploding all over the place. And people are just waking up and
Yeah.
seeing it.
Yeah, armed equality is a good one. Yeah, whether you support LGBTQ or not, I mean, I don't fucking care. I have my beliefs on it. I support it. I also don't fucking care. Like, it doesn't affect me. But when it comes to gun ownership and just, gun ownership in general, like, I don't fucking care what side you're on. I just think, hey, you own a gun. You could be,
Yeah.
unless you're fucking that small group of communist Antifa folks that threatened to kill us because we were going to stand in the way of progress.
Oh yeah. I remember that.
Yeah,
It's like,
unless
oh,
you're
you'll be
those
the first
people
one
that,
the fucking train.
yeah,
People.
unless you're those people that want to use the guns against me because of something as stupid like political beliefs, I support you having a gun.
Yeah,
I don't care what race, what gender, what sexuality. I don't fucking care.
yeah. As the way
Regardless.
it fucking
Yeah,
should be. It's
everyone
rights are
should.
rights
Honestly, everyone
for
should be
everyone.
allowed to own
It's
a
kind of
gun.
the definition of rights.
And in my opinion, even the
And
people that want to own a gun who don't like me, that's part of the reason why I own a gun. That's the weird dichotomy in
Yeah,
America is people legitimately
yeah,
get to own what they want for the reasons that they want. And honestly, I don't. All the gun laws that I know about were generally passed to prevent a certain group of people from getting a gun, whether it was based on racial
yeah. Black
reasons
people.
yeah,
whether it's that or you decide that someone who committed a mistake 30 years ago can never be allowed to have a gun. A friend of mine that I work with, he was 18 years old, still living at home in Atlanta, black dude. His brother's selling drugs. The cops bust the house. He's like 2 days past 18 and now as like a 45-year-old man, he still can't own a gun. Like that's total madness. And
there was
that's just
so
the
in
way it
college
is.
during my one little semester. During my one semester of college that I fucking hated, by the way, we were allowed to do a research paper and present it to the class. I chose my thesis. I don't know if it was even a proper thesis, but my statement that I was proving was that gun control is inherently racist. And I remember I went back to like some of the first anti-gun laws that were passed and I copied the wording. It specifically says shit like Negroes cannot own blah blah blah. Like it specifically has the racist language in it and it is specifically targeting black people. And then later on, it kind of got into immigrants more than black people. Um, but I remember I took the exact wording down of even some modern anti-gun legislation, and I was presenting it to the class, to all these college kids, and they didn't believe me. Like I had a source. This was the first paper since like fucking middle school that I actually cared to source. Because even in high school, I didn't source paper. But I'm like, no, I know these people are gonna ask. So I had my wife, who's the smartest fucking person I know, that's graduated college already. I'm like, hey, I need help with this sources paper because I want to be able to present something to them because they're gonna think I'm fucking crazy. And I had a sources paper, and they still didn't believe me. Like they're asking me questions, like questioning it. They're like, oh yeah, what right wing,
Yeah, that's what always
extremist
comes up. It's
website
always
did you
right wing.
pull this from? And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, look, this is anti-gun legislation. This isn't this is your message just 100 years ago. It's all stemming from this. It is inherently racist. Maybe the message isn't racist now. Maybe it's now we need to take assault rifles away from black people. It's all people, but
yeah,
it stems from racism. And they refuse. Like I was just getting these questions, not even questioning the words or the quotes or the information, questioning the sources. It was all about it was like, yeah, we're right wing extremist propaganda website. Did you pull this from? That's not what was written in the law. And I'm like, I'm pulling this from .org, .gov websites. Like these are laws that still exist. Like they
yeah,
still exist.
yeah,
And you look at how they were passed, like the NRA director back in the fucking day, that dude was racist as fuck. And he was openly supporting anti-gun legislation.
yeah.
The
People forget the NRA drafted most of it. The
yeah,
NRA had the NRA had a hand in so much of the modern gun legislation,
it's
including the
crazy.
National Firearms Act.
It's crazy. It's madness that history that is recorded, written down, sourced, is being brought into question as
Yeah,
illegitimate and
it
extremist.
challenges the narrative.
It
Yeah,
it's
it's
so
there's that
bizarre.
saying, the people that write history write the future, and to me, that's what we're seeing now. And it I always like to say that it depends on your perspective. It depends on what lenses you use to view the world. And people it's almost like they're too focused in. They go, yeah, okay, so the reasons for trying to take guns now is slightly different from the perspective of what's being played as the reason why, but the actual effect of taking the guns is the same. You take the guns because you don't want people to have power. So why is that not the case on a broader scale of, okay, now we're no longer targeting based on this minority reason or skin color reason. Now they're doing it based on, they're just simply trying to set up two classes. You have people that have money, that have power, and you have people like us that play with monopoly money called the US dollar, that play within the laws and confines of the larger structure that's been developed. That's what it is. It's always been about taking power away from someone. So who are they taking the power from now? Now it's everyone instead of just that old divide that they used to use to separate us.
I like what you said earlier about how we're kind of having that, that gun culture shift almost. And I think while you said you enjoy watching it happen, I want to go back to you and point out that while there's a million different factors going into contributing to that, you're a huge reason because of it. And I think you need to acknowledge your role in this because it's so, like, something as simple as, we haven't done it in a while. I feel like we talked about this last time too, is your little industry gaming night. And I say little, I mean, this isn't little. You're having people from Spiritus, AWS, yourself, like you're building these connections through something as simple as video games, and then they go on to become sponsors of a podcast, or they go on to just be involved with a different aspect. And when you have this type of collaboration between companies, you're building that community and you're revolutionizing the way that people view the tactical community. You're revolutionizing the way and going against the narrative that's being pushed about gun owners. You're taking a community, our tactical gear, which in the few instances I've been on there, it's either like full blown fucking gear autism or it's like good information. It's a good
Yeah.
combination of a lot of different things, but you're taking this community that is often demonized or ostracized by media or by just society in general, and you're going against the grain in the sense that you're being a philanthropist. I can't say that word. You're
Full on rapist.
a full-on rapist. Jesus Christ. You're being you're running Operation Doggo Drop. You're helping people in need. You're building a community. You're bridging the gap between the left and the right through guns. And it is something that, like I've said, it's very difficult to do. It's time consuming. And I think while we are going through that change of gun culture, you're a large reason because of it. And I think in a way it's something that we've kind of had to accept ourselves. We're a very, very, very small part ourselves, but one thing that I love seeing more is that now all of a sudden there's a lot more, cartoons and illustrations about gun stuff coming out.
Yeah.
Not comics. I'm talking like information.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stuff of that. And while I don't think we were the first to do it at all, by any means, no means, I think that we play a role in it, very much smaller than yours. And if we can acknowledge that we're kind of a very small part of it, I think you should be able to acknowledge that you are a larger part of it than we are. And there's a lot of people that don't know how much you do and how many fingers you got your pot in with a lot of different people that make a lot of different things
How
happen
many
within the
fingers you
community.
got your pot in?
How many pots you got your fingers in?
Dude, I'm all over town, man.
You make a lot of things happening. Like you see something and maybe your connection to it is you introduced them, or you just did a giveaway and they were in a giveaway together and that's why they reached out. But there's a lot of things that are happening that I think stem or happen partially because of you when it comes to the gun industry and the culture, um, and how it's changing. And I think it's really, I think it's really unique what you do.
Well, thanks, man. I will I will heed your command and I will take due credit. But, part of that makes me wonder, like, doesn't that also show just how far we've kind of lost in terms of gun culture? That simply just people connecting through video games and stuff like that is now seen as some miracle thing. And I mean, you look at even the subreddit, it's weird. The community like doesn't get along with itself. The amount of people just shitting on each other for absolutely no reason at all blows my mind. And I think what we need to do
I
is
feel
we
that's
really
just
need to
Reddit
take
and the internet.
but that's all gun community, man. And I feel like it. I mean, shit,
Yeah,
dude.
that's
You'll see
true. I think
people
that's all
argue
every
about
community.
barrel lengths of all the dumbest shit in the world. It's always the most inconsequential things that people get in these heated battles with. Like, dude, who fucking cares who you get your gear from? Do you have any dirt on it? That's what matters to me, man. Like, why are you shitting on one company or another? Like, we're one community literally fighting tooth and nail to not get completely run out. I mean, our government they would love to pass a law banning body armor and stuff like that. So why are we arguing about whether a
Oh
company
yeah, they did
does
that
a
here.
drop style or a pre-order style, or they just like to make hats for fashion reasons? Who gives a shit, dude? The house is on fire. We're all gonna die. Like, let's stop arguing about this little stuff and deal with the bigger problem that we have ahead.
There was this really funny meme that I just got reminded of by hearing you talk. Remember when we decided to give the Taliban all this really cool badass gear that's illegal here? We just gave it to
Yes,
them.
we just gave it to
So
them.
there was a
You can buy it on
meme
eBay now.
of there's a meme of the Taliban like all Gucci'd out in our gear, and it's like Taliban ranks collapse because they're arguing over barrel length and micro rigs. And I was like, holy shit, perspective. Dude, I know where that argument is coming from. It's coming from Drew Hopkinth, great friend. Another person that does a lot for the gun community behind the scenes.
Hopkins, not Hopkins.
Yeah, Hopkinth.
Yeah.
The fake
Hopkins is
Drew.
cool too.
Yeah. Yeah, I've bought stuff from him. I buy gear from him. He's a great guy.
Yeah, I bought a
great
mod
friend.
light from him. It's
Dude,
pretty good.
I
Yeah,
have
awesome
I have
guy.
AR parts on my rifle right now that are from him, man. Yeah. No, dude, he's another guy. Okay, yeah. All right, there you go. There's a point. There's another guy that's doing all kinds of just banana stuff behind the scenes simply because it's fun to talk to people, man. It's fun to community build.
He also, in the same hand, while he does so much, he also lights the fucking community on fire sometimes.
Yeah,
And don't get me wrong,
I don't
he
care.
has good opinions and good logic and good advice.
Yeah.
But like for example, like the micro rig versus the load bearing equipment shit, I'm sitting there just silent during the whole thing, and I'm like, I have like a 3 mag carrier on my plate carrier and some other stuff. I don't really have any load bearing equipment because I've never really used it for a mission, but
Immediately killed
whatever.
in the
Like
streets, bro.
it fucking
Immediately dead.
sets the community on fire. But what I like about it, while him and I don't always see eye to eye when it comes to gear and equipment and tactics, that's fine. I like disagreeing with people. He's a great friend. Talked to him, personally a couple times. Really, really nice dude.
That's the key
One
word,
thing
man.
that he
You don't
does do,
agree
and
with
he
him
does
all the time, but he's a great friend. Sorry, go on. I just wanted to hit on that.
Yeah. What he does though, and he's not just starting a fucking dumpster fire for the sake of starting a dumpster fire. What he does, he gets people talking and thinking. He gets discussions being had. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of fucking arguments too that start because of shit that he posts. I get it. But he gets people communicating and thinking about different gear, different equipment, different missions. And while he is a total gear snob, I think he even recognizes that. I love it though, because anytime I have a question about anything, I go to him and he's like I bought a Night Force from him recently, which to me, a Night Force is like the Gucciest of fucking optics. He's like, yeah, I'm just
Yeah,
going
I'm
to
not
buy
going
this,
much more
like
expensive
using the
than
money
that.
from this to, yeah. Well, and he's getting like a $4,000 or $5,000 optic, and I'm like, Jesus fuck, dude. Like, hey, I love it though. But he gets discussions going, he gets people thinking, and he contributes a lot as well. But what makes because his is more in public, yours is more behind the scenes, and you don't really think about it until you start seeing it. And it wasn't until I started to know you where I started to see kind of like hints and traces of you and things that you are contributing to that nobody knows. Like nobody knows you had a hand in, and I think that's really cool and really unique. And like I said, it takes a really refined skill set and amount of patience to do it. And there are people like yourself. There are people like Hopkins. I'm not going to say his real name. Um, Out there that are doing all different types of things and contributing in their own way. And it is changing gun culture. And we're in that 0.5 phase. I think I said a couple weeks ago. We're not at a full like 0.0 phase again. We're in a 0.5 where there's still people stuck, in one side, but we're kind of trying to drag them along. And if they still refuse, they're getting left behind as we all move forward. Um, and it's amazing now that we're intertwined. Like I said, I'm not saying we are a reason or a big contributing factor, but it's amazing to know that we're kind of intertwined in a way that allows us to see and know about the things going on behind the scenes that are kind of making this happen. And it's really cool from my perspective. I don't know about you, Nathan, but
Yeah.
it's cool from my perspective to see.
I don't know. It's just cool to
I'm a
hear
big
that you
fan.
guys are seeing stuff.
Honestly, yeah, the huge expansion and kind of how the partisanship of all of this is falling apart. That's what I like. That's what I really like. The fact it's no longer like a left right issue. The fact that the overwhelmingly young people are coming in favor of this. Like
Yeah.
it past 50% now that want laxer gun laws of the I think under 18 American youth. It's nuts to me. It's nuts. Never thought I'd see this in my lifetime, but I'm cautiously optimistic for where it goes.
I'm super optimistic. The one thing that I keep thinking about though is as we're marching forward and things like, act tactical AR shooting, owning tactical gear becomes kind of the new norm for what is gun culture. I really hope we don't lose a lot of the more classic things that we used to kind of rely upon. I really hope stuff like old school skeet shooting, trap shooting doesn't fall to the wayside. Stuff like, one thing that really got me, I don't think stuff like that will. I worry about smaller, more niche things. The thing that really comes to my mind right now is, like I said, when I got back into guns, it was through a 22 bolt action. And the first thing that I started watching on YouTube wasn't in range TV, it wasn't Garantham, wasn't anything like that. It was the long range shooters of Utah. They do a contest, it's a 22 LR extreme accuracy contest. And the stuff that these dudes make 22 LR dance. It's absolutely amazing. And I worry about smaller niche things like that going the way of the dodo bird because you know what you know what you don't know, but you don't know what you don't know. And if you don't know that there's a core group of people that are out there absolutely pressing the limits on 22R marksmanship, you may not know that that could be a super huge interest of yours. If you don't know that, 20 gauge shotgun skeet shooting exists, that may not be something that people are going to venture into. And I worry that smaller niche shooting communities like that are going to go to the way of the dodo bird. They're just going to crap and die out simply because everyone's so hyped up on reclaiming this lost thing that is like the AR, tactical gear, and stuff like that.
I mean, I'm inclined to agree, but something too is it's already a niche thing. I don't think it'll ever go away because of that. Like, obviously, tactical shooting is kind of the mainstream. That's kind of the bipartisan, the thing that everyone's getting into. But skeet shooting, I think, will always exist. Even I know people who do tactical shooting that also do, 22 shooting, and they're really passionate about it. And it's a good way to get people into it. Same with skeet shooting. I don't think it'll go anywhere. But at the same time, you also have your ear to the ground a lot more than I do. So
one thing that is kind of disappointing me a little bit about this transition that we're going through, I don't think it won't be involved in this little transition we're doing. It will be in the next one, I think, though. A lot of people now are starting to focus on the cool guy sexy shit because people are excited.
yes. Oh
It's
yeah,
all
like
about
CQB and all that stuff.
CQB, small
Yeah.
unit tactics, the cool high speed sexy shit that a lot of people fantasize about. And not a lot of people are focusing on bushcraft and
Yeah.
survival skills. I don't think it's going to be. I think it's too late to get that involved with this little 0.5 that we're in. I do think that is what will be the focus of the next one, of that next kind of gun culture shift. And I don't know when that'll be. 3,
Looks like
5,
it's
10
already
years.
kind of happening.
I mean, I
You
hope
think
so.
so?
I mean, I think you guys are pressing a lot of that because that was always been a complaint of mine. Just, just as someone looking for content and material online, is that the people that are putting out that level of content, that style of content, aren't getting the same sort of watchability and stuff. And like I said, it all just comes down to what's sexy, what's cool, what's got slick editing, and our brains are just wired and predisposed to kind of gloss over stuff that isn't of that level, and that's where you mainly focus on, which is kind of sad because there's that meme where basically the stuff that everyone's watching now, it doesn't matter. I've shown up to like a CQB force on force class, and there are people that really don't get much out of it because they can't hit shit with their gun. They still can't shoot
Yeah, they're
properly,
skipping
so they're
steps.
skipping steps. So now they're not concentrating on what they should be learning in the class. They're concentrating on just not shooting over their sights.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe I'm just looking too much into our personal numbers. But for example, our CQB guide is at like 18, 19,000 likes, I think.
Holy
But
fuck.
like, yeah, but like a guide on like, like the one that we just posted on like survival, and things like that, it's got like 6, it's got literally like a third
Yeah.
of the interaction and engagement.
Yeah.
That's why I don't think it'll be a big contributing factor now, because people are excited. We're getting into tactics, like
Yeah.
this is new ground for gun culture. This is holy shit, like CQB, that sounds fucking fun. Like, oh, I get to shoot in close quarters areas. It's not just flat range training anymore. Like, this is so much fun. But what's going to end up happening, I feel like this just happens in general. People get really fucking chimpy in the beginning when something's new. Like, oh, tactics? We're getting into tactics now? So I want to do like the coolest and only the fun tactics. And then eventually what's going to happen is people are going to start focusing more on the less fun stuff,
Yeah.
more of the nitty gritty. And I think that's where we're going to start seeing bushcraft come into play. And it gets talked about, not as much as I think it should, because it's not popular.
Yeah.
Once it starts to become popular, more people talk about it. But even like Garantham, every so often he'll be like, hey, it's great that you have the suppressor on your rifle, but the reality is if you can't go live up in the mountains and hunt and actually survive, then you're going to fucking die.
Yeah.
He said that a couple times. And that right there, it's small, right? It's very small, but I think where like some people are kind of pushing ahead, but a lot of people aren't ready for that yet. A lot of people want to focus on that CQB right now, which is fine. Don't get me wrong. I think it's great that people want to learn how to do
Yeah.
CQB.
It's like
I
I really enjoy practicing it, even though I know that like the real world application will be minimal to none.
yeah,
But
you
it's
just
fun. It's fun.
it's a lot of fun, and guns should always be fun.
Yes, exactly. Like I know it's not fun in real life, but just like doing that LARPy shit, it's fucking fun.
Yeah.
Like why do I have the gear that I do, and why do I practice it? Because it's fucking fun. It's fucking
Because
fun. That's
LARPing
it.
is fun as shit, man.
And I have no
LARPing
problems.
is fun as shit.
Yeah, I have no problems with the fun stuff.
Yeah.
I just kind of like what you said, where people show up and instead of getting anything from like a CQB course or a small units tactics course, well, they've never learned how to properly just shoot on a flat range.
Yeah.
So,
The amount of people who don't know how to clean a gun and have been asking us to do a guide on that too. This is not shitting on them. I get it.
Yeah,
I
no, it's
absolutely
not.
get it. Like they did no one when you go to a store and you buy a gun, no one's just like, and this is how you do everything, and this is how you field strip it. This is how you clear a stoppage. And like a lot of the time, I'll teach a class, a bunch of new shooters will come out. The first time they've got a stoppage of any kind, which because they're new shooters, a lot of user caused errors, and they'll just kind of look at the gun and be like, "Oh,
Yeah,
what
just
do
brain
I
dead.
do now?"
Just brain
And
turns
that's
off. Can't
totally
figure it out.
okay. Yeah, because no one ever taught them, and
I think it's because it's the community's so young right now. It's in a real adolescent state because, like I said, we've been stripped of so much of it that a lot of the stuff that's coming out isn't from previous iterations of it. You have a lot of people whose only knowledge and experience was video games, which thank God for Call of Duty, man, because that is going to be one of the saviors of this entire community, sadly, whether you like it or not. But people are coming in, and just
Yeah.
like kids, they see the table is set with all the stuff. You've got your meats, you've got your stuff that provides that nutrition, like that bushcraft, like that boring application of how to properly slowly shoot in the correct way. Boring stuff like sitting there in a class and learning squad based tactics and stuff like that. That shit's boring. You don't want to eat that as a kid. You want to fucking smash right into that plate of brownies, and you're just going to fucking chew into it and eat into it until you eventually get bored of it, sick of it, and you realize that you need to start ingesting some of the stuff on the rest of the plate. Like I said, it's going to come eventually because everyone's still excited, man. I mean, trust me, when I first got into tactical gear, I couldn't wait to buy the next type of mag pouch to throw on my kit to see how it all worked together. But eventually that excitement wears down. And now what I care about is taking more, slower stuff. I like class stuff now a lot more. I like to sit there in a class setting and digest all this stuff, then go into like a kill house and learn about different pieing techniques and how to do this sort of shit, in comparison to just mag dumping like I once did.
Well, one thing, it's funny. Anytime I go to a range, people ask me like, "Oh, you're going to a range, you should do like CQB, like set that up for me so I know what to do and get out there." The first thing I always do, and the first thing I tell everybody to do, is just group and zero your rifle. First thing you do. You never know. Maybe, it's not, maybe it hit something and you lost zero. Maybe over time, it just got a little loose. And the reason I do it is, one, obviously for safety, especially if I'm doing CQB. I don't want my rifle zero to be completely fucking off. But also, it's a great confidence booster and to remind you of the fundamentals before you get into anything, right? Because when you're grouping and zeroing, you have to focus on your fundamentals. And for me, it's to the point where I've probably shot over 1 million rounds in my lifetime. More than that, actually, combined with the Army. I
That's
probably
a lot of
shot
tax dollars.
oh, a lot of fucking rounds. But I do that because I go to the range, I take 10 rounds max. It's usually 3 to 5 in my first group. I'm still good because my zero is still good. And I'll zero and I'll be like, okay, I'm confident. Everything's zeroed. Everything's good. I still know my fundamentals. I can go up there. I can do it in 5 minutes. Boom, I'm done. Now the foundation for the rest of the day is set. I'm confident. I know I'm confident in my equipment. I've just proven that everything still works. Everything's still going right. Even though there's no reason for me to believe that any of my stuff would lose zero. There's no reason to believe that any of my stuff won't work, but it's setting that foundation to go into that next step. Even though, I've done hundreds of hours of CQB training. Even if I go in and do something basics, I don't just go in with live rounds and, off the rip with a cold gun. That's not what I do. I think it would be unsafe if I did that, you know? So what I do, I'll just go in and I'll start the bait. I'll just be like, okay, just kind of, getting that muscle memory and seeing if it's still there, even if I just spent 10 hours, the last 3 days doing it. First thing I do, I zero. And then if I'm doing CQB, I'll just, okay, this is a room. I'm going to go in with a unloaded dry weapon. And I'm just going to make sure that my muscle memory still works, pie the corner clear, go through everything, go through the process nice and slow, right? And then I'm like, okay, now we can start getting, more into the flow. And then you build up to it, build up to it, build up to it. And then eventually you're doing that high speed shit. And that's how you get good. The problem I see a lot, and not just with CQB, just with guns in general, like we were kind of talking about, is people, they get a gun, they get a brand new Gucci'd out fucking AK or HK with, a holographic sight on
Call
it.
out Leia, won't you?
And
Leia.
they take it. Maybe they zeroed it like a month ago, and they're like, okay, I'm going to go to the CQB course, and I'm going to go live rounds. Like that's going to be the first rounds that come out of my rifle today is in CQB, and they're all fucking frantic. I can always tell from the videos, from whether it's inexperience or whether they just didn't put in the time to learn the fundamentals before going into it, because everybody's fucking frantic. CQB, everybody thinks they're cool, calm, and sexy. it's fucking chaos. Even if it's in a controlled training environment, people get, because you're shooting in a building, everything's louder. It's much closer. Things, you have to process things more quicker, and people are fucking frantic. They freak the fuck out. So I like watching the videos of people, like, you can tell they think they're doing all this cool, sexy shit, but they just look like bags of ass because they skipped. And I'm not saying you have to go to, yeah, I'm not saying you have to do what I do in the sense where I have my, 0, then I kind of crawl, walk, run. I'm not saying you have to do that, but I'm saying in general, you can't skip basic fundamentals and just go right into doing the cool, fun, sexy shit. Because it's just, you're not going to get the value out of that cool, fun, sexy shit. You'll think that you will, because you're like, oh, I'm doing CQB, but you're not getting the value out of it because maybe your rifle's not zeroed. Maybe you're not confident with just getting behind a rifle. Maybe your shot placement is off. Have you learned to shoot and move before you even went into a room? Like just walking and shooting, running and shooting, moving quickly and shooting, like you need to know all those things before you get into the cool, sexy stuff. And it's funny how it's going to work. People are going to do all this cool, sexy shit, and then they're going to go back and learn the fundamentals. So they'll get it eventually. Don't get me wrong. But it's just funny how it's just skipping all these steps and going into that stuff. And that's why I think in the next kind of gun culture upgrade, we'll start seeing people focus on, bushcraft and other important, more practical things in CQB.
I agree. I think a big reason for a lot of the kind of sprinting before people can even walk sort of situation is it, from the perspective of a complete LARPer who just LARPs, takes classes, continues to LARP, it's hard to get training. I am personally lucky enough that my income, my significant other's income, gives me the ability where I can travel to another state, I can stay in a hotel, I can afford thousands of rounds of ammo. But to me, the average person can't. And a lot of the people that are getting into this sort of thing that I see, at least on Reddit, that I talk to on a regular basis, they're young people. There are so many people in college dorms with gear and guns. There are so many people in their young 20s, and it's difficult for them to take a class. And I think it's a culmination of a lot of things. A lot of the instructors are almost like mini celebrities on their own right. If you like War Poet, it's hard to get into one of his classes. You have to live in that location unless you can afford to travel. You have to be able to have the money to drop $500 up front. For some people, super easy. For some people, that's very difficult. And I think one of the reasons why we're going to see in the future that shifting of what kind of training people are going to be getting is because people are going to figure out how to make it more affordable, easier to get to, and more accessible for the average layman. The way that I like to describe it, I know I keep talking about Comic-Con, is nobody's going to pay $2,000 to go to a comic book store. It's just not going to happen. People can't afford it. But those same people will save all year long to go to Comic-Con. They'll spend thousands of dollars, untold amounts of money, simply because it's annual, it's in the same place, it's in the same time, they can plan for it. It's not something that pops up, gets announced on Patreon, now it's completely filled within minutes, making it almost inaccessible. So that's one of the things, especially with Operation Dog Drop, that I want to see going forward is I want to see a way that classes are easier for people to get into, whether because they're planned so far out in advance that people can finance it, they can pay it off slowly, they can save for it. It's annual, so that way people can, get hotel arrangements and stuff like that. And I think what we'll see is a large growth in the community as these sorts of projects pan out. If it's super easy for me to get to a wilderness survival course and I can take one over the weekend, you bet your ass I will. But if it's extremely difficult, it's hard to find, or I simply don't know about it because the level of marketing isn't out there, it's not going to get done. And especially with Google, Facebook, and all these companies, they're even going to ban the advertising of guns and stuff like that soon. So how are we going to figure out how to continue the networking of this community in order to ensure that people can find each other, can find classes, can find training? Someone new can come along and say, hey, I have an idea that'll help the community grow in this way. How do I get my voice out so people can find it? And I think that's the big question that's going to be very difficult to answer over the next couple of years.
Yeah, I think while To add to that, there's a unprecedented amount of people running courses that should not be running courses. There aren't a lot of good, legitimate instructors. And finding a course with a good instructor that isn't just feeding you a bunch of bullshit is very difficult to find because they are buried by all this garbage around them. We were looking at it the other day. There was this Nathan. What was that? I'm not going to say that page's name. I don't want to put them on the spot.
No, I'm going to fucking put them on spot. I don't give a shit. Detroit Dust.
Detroit Dust.
Detroit Dust.
Holy shit.
Holy fuck.
Their videos.
Oh,
Is that a YouTube thing?
The hand is not meant to hold anything.
Yeah, and they're teaching tactics, survival, and if somebody puts a gun up to you, what do, right? And they're like, oh, well, the hand isn't meant to hold something, so do this. What did he say? It's biometrics.
Yeah, it's just basic biometrics, and he's just.
Yeah, but
the person just reaches up slowly and grabs the gun that is still pointed at them.
Half-rate Haley.
But there's so many people and companies like this that have and it's always the ones that are ex-military, badass special forces, and maybe they were attached to special forces so they can technically say it and it's not a lie, or maybe they're just outright lying like that one guy was about being formal special forces, and he was like a National Guard fucking cannon dude.
Oh, fucking Travis Raids?
Yeah, whatever the fuck his name was.
Oh, that t-shirt guy or whatever.
But there's so many people that shouldn't be teaching courses that are teaching courses because there's a lot of gullible people with money that want to learn. That's the most heartbreaking thing. These people want to learn, and they're willing to spend the money to
instructors.
Learn. And the problem is I don't think it's any fault of their own, but they don't know better when they see somebody that's obviously bullshitting, because some fucking computer nerd in the army can be like, ex-military is teaching CQB course. And don't get me wrong, there can be a fucking ex-computer nerd that knows all about CQB and is a great instructor.
But the big thing is they have to be honest about it.
Yes. But with that being said, a lot of these people are just like E4 fucking weirdo that took one course, 1 day CQB course in basic training because it was required, and it was taught by people that have never done CQB in their lives either, and it installed them with all this confidence that they shouldn't have because they're ass at doing what they do, and then they take this confidence in something that they aren't proficient in, and then they market and sell it because they're good at marketing and selling to a bunch of gullible people that don't know better, that learn and develop all these terrible habits. I don't know, I say it all the time, and there was a whole controversy. Not really, it wasn't a whole thing, but it pissed off a lot of veterans and a lot of active duty people when I said combat experience doesn't make you a good, valid trainer, and somebody without combat experience can be a better instructor and trainer than you. There's a Green Beret page that got really fucking poopy about it.
Yeah, I remember that. And it's like, Mitch, you have combat experience.
It doesn't matter, though.
Yeah,
my combat experience is
irrelevant. They're different things.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
They're totally different. They're totally different skill sets.
I think it's relevant to a degree, but it does not make your training better than the better training. It is an experience that you had, and while it shines like a lot of light on,
it's perspective. It's just a unique perspective. That's all it is.
Yeah,
and that doesn't validate me or invalidate me. And there's a lot of veterans and people involved, because the gun industry in general, not just veterans, gun industry in general is a lot of big egos. There's just egos, and that's what it takes, I think, to be a business person, and that's what it takes to be, a person of interest within, any community. It takes an ego.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of fragile egos, and
yes. When people build their identity around something, it tends to make them fragile.
Huh. Well, it's weird because like a lot of people in the gun community, they hate it when quote unquote liberals do the same thing or quote unquote anti-gun people. But there are so many people that the very depths of who they are is simply gun. Like that's it. That's all that there is to
Yeah.
them. And unfortunately,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
it's
And
not good for anybody because the thing is, for any community to flourish, you need people of all different viewpoints. You need people of all different backgrounds to come together in order to figure stuff out. Wild viewpoints are not particularly healthy. It's when we take a bunch of people that are arguing and then come to a sensible conclusion at the end. Uh, and going back to what you're talking about, people taking bad classes, a lot of that comes down, like I said, there's just such little information out there that if you don't know someone is bad at teaching, they may seem like they're good at teaching
yeah,
because you're learning something. You're sitting there in that class, you're going, holy shit, I didn't know about that before. Even though you're learning crap, you're still learning. So what do we as a community do to help fix that? And those are the sorts of things that are always in my mind, which is why I like to reach out and contact people in other companies. It's why I like to set up stuff like Operation Dog Drop because here's a gap, here's a problem. So what do we do to fix it? And it just seems like a lot of that kind of go-to spirit's just completely lost these days. People just sit there. They don't do anything to fix their own lives. They don't do anything to fix their own plot. They just say, "Oh, I need this, I need that." It's like, okay, dude, what are you doing? There's a problem. Veterans are killing themselves at a rate that's entirely unacceptable, in my opinion. It's grotesque. Like I think about it every day now. It bothers me. So what do I do about it? This is what I do about it. I set this thing up. I put in the money, I put in the time to get the paperwork going, to make it legal, to get the bank account going, to get everything put in place so that way the community can come together and make something happen. And all we need is just more people to do it in other ways. T Rex is doing a great job at bringing new people into the industry. Who's going to step up to make a Yelp website for trainers and stuff? Who's going to do these things? It's up to the community to do it.
to speak on that veteran suicide thing, I think we are seeing an uptick now. A lot of people are like, "Oh, the men in World War II were a lot harder than the men now," and maybe that's the case, maybe it isn't. But I think it's more the men in World War II had more justification for the war. They had the Nazis, and the Nazis were doing something that everybody can recognize was terrible. Everyone can recognize that genociding people is bad. So they had a cause. They had reason. They had purpose. They had a just cause that they believed in. The problem that I think happens now with veterans, and it's kind of been a problem since Vietnam, there is a lot of doubt when it comes to the modern day wars. And there's doubt that can develop later on as things develop. For example, I think the next 10 years, 15 years, we're going to see, and the suicide rate is already very high, it's going to increase tremendously because it takes time for people to process and it takes time for people to recognize things that they don't necessarily want to recognize. In the last 20 years, a lot of people are going to come to realize the fact that people died, that they killed people for no reason.
Or the
And
Globo machine, man. Yeah.
and yeah, and I don't think, I think that's, for starters, it was terrible, but what happens when somebody joins combat arms? It takes a very stubborn person to do it. I know because I'm a very stubborn person and I joined. I was offered any job in the military. I did good on my ASVABs back in high school. And they were like, you can do any job you want. And I was like, I want to be an airborne ranger. And they're like, no, 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 you can do anything you want. And I'm like, I want to be an airborne ranger. And, you know, I went through the process and then I got sent to the 173rd. But it takes such a stubborn person to join that, and it takes a strong, I'm not saying like strong mindset. I mean like very strong belief system to do that job, because you have to go to a foreign country and kill people. Like that is your job description. Go to a foreign country and you kill people. And it was the same job back in World War II as it is now. You go to a foreign land and you kill people. The only difference is back then, nobody was questioning the cause. Nobody was questioning, hey, maybe we shouldn't go stop the Nazis,
Yeah.
Nobody was doing
Yeah,
that.
when you got home,
But
you didn't have
now,
people doubting you constantly. You didn't
yeah.
sit there and doubt your own self because you knew you were over there for a righteous reason.
Yep, and we see it. We saw it with Vietnam, and we're going to see it even more with Afghanistan, especially with the way that we left. But what happens is people with these really strong convictions and really stubborn beliefs, when that gets taken from them, and that's all they know, and they were giving their lives, and they were willing to put themselves in danger, and they were so convinced that it was just, when that gets taken away from them, that's their identity, and they're fucking lost. And we're going to see a lot of, mid 20s, 30s, 40-year-olds that served and maybe lost people. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they just wholeheartedly believed in something, and then that thing got taken away from them. We're going to see a lot of people, I think, killing themselves because of that, and because of all the things that are coming out about Afghanistan. The Afghanistan papers, the withdrawal, General Milley basically selling out the entire fucking army. We're going to see all of these things start to take away that identity and take away those convictions and make them realize that it was, whether you believe it was all for nothing or not, people are going to think it was all for nothing. And I think that's why we're going to see an uptick in veteran suicide. I hope not. I hope I'm wrong. But from the perspective that I have now, I know what it's like to lose those convictions. I know what it's like to, have that identity taken from me, because I was super fucking hua. I was 17 years old. I joined the army. I wanted to go serve my fucking country. I'm from New York. I remember 9/11 as a kid. I wanted to go over there and make these people pay. And when you have that taken away from you, it was hard for me, but I think I do a good job of dealing with that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of people that are dealing with other things, and then you add that identity being stripped away from them. It's not a good recipe for success, is what I'm trying to say. And I do think in the future, next 15, 20 years, there is going to be a very large uptick in veteran suicide. And I think that's the reason. People are losing their identities. They put their entire faith into a system or a government or a president at the time, and that's being taken away. And that is a big thing for people like myself who are very stubborn and had very strong convictions.
It's you don't think about it in that way, but yeah, essentially that's what's happened. Is the country was sold a lie. We were sold a reason why we did something. We sent a ton of people over there under that lie, and then the fumbling of that thing is so bad. It's ridiculous. You really got to wonder, like, you look at all these pictures of equipment, of gear, of all this just stuff laying around, and you got to wonder, okay, is this what the CIA, was this the plan that they created? Did they sit down with the Taliban and the Taliban said, okay, we'll give you until this day to get out, but in exchange, we want this amount of guns, this amount of ammo, this amount of gear, this amount of vehicles, and stuff like that. I mean, literally, if you look at the numbers of stuff that was given to them, it's an army. It's a fully funded, fully functional army when what was before was dudes with old AKs and old Soviet era stuff.
What's going to be ironic? The Russians tried to take over Afghanistan, and when they left, they armed Afghanistan, and then we came in to fight them. So essentially, without intentionally doing it, I think Russia armed the people they were trying to take over to eventually fight us. And now I think there's going to be another country that's our enemies that's going to come into Afghanistan that they're going to fight
I
with our weapons.
With,
that see
Which
that's
with
that's
like
that's the thing.
GPNBGs and fucking Mark 18s.
Now, see, this is the problem. This is what I worry about. Is the next country has already moved in, but the problem is they moved in peacefully. China, what a lot of people don't realize is China is completely taking over the planet with positive diplomacy. Is basically how I would describe it. If you look at Africa, Africa is wholesale being bought up, being leased out from the dictators to Chinese companies, which go in, disrupt the local economy, bring in their own equipment, bring in their own people, enslave the local people, and then basically mine and strip out all the resources. it'll be the same company with 40 different names, and they're basically recolonizing all these areas. But how it's done is they've realized, hey, all you got to do is appease the people in charge. So, hey, Taliban, you're in charge of Afghanistan now. We're going to give you some hints. We're going to tell you things that we want you to do that'll be for our benefit. But here is a ton towards your benefit. Obviously, the leaders of the Taliban are going to become filthy rich. They're going to be getting their own country. I guarantee you within the next 10 years, we're going to be seeing really nice cities being built up in Afghanistan and all these areas being funded by the Chinese.
And that's going to contribute to everything because, I think I've told this story before, but just to sum it up, on one operation when I was deployed, my platoon sergeant was like, "Oh, I took this village when I was a private, and we were taking it again." And we were like, "So what's going to happen when we because we don't occupy villages. That's not how we do it. We go in, we maybe kill some people, or we take out an IED maker, or we find some intel, or maybe we go in and nothing happens, right? And then what's going to happen in 5 years when, I mean, that's not going to happen now because we left, but I was thinking at the time, I'm like, okay, so we're going to do this now. And then in 5 fucking years, it's just going to get repopulated with these bad people that we're supposed to be taking out. And what's the point? And when we see something, if China does come in and starts building these cities and taking over Afghanistan in a very peaceful way, that's only going to increase to what the fuck was the point?
It was old
And like I said,
school.
that identity crisis, it's going to be an identity crisis that leads to suicide.
Sorry, guys.
Was that Isaac?
Yes. So Isaac from literally episode 2 of the podcast has barged into my house.
Isaac, give your opinion.
Barge.
We're talking
he gave
China,
me a key.
man.
It's not really barging.
It's barging in.
What do you say?
We have the inconvenient Indian here.
Oh, yes.
But yes, I guess we have kind of an impromptu guest appearance.
Isaac, what are your thoughts on
The
Afghanistan?
Chinese peaceful takeover
Is there
of
is there a
Afghanistan.
veteran suicide problem in Canada?
Yes.
Is there what?
Is there a veteran suicide problem here?
Yes, there is. And it's very similar to the United States, where more attention is being drawn to our identity politics within the military than the actual real crises that are going on.
Yeah, the problem that everyone knows about.
With China, with China, from what I understand from the whole situation, I'm not overly swept up on it, but there's a lot of countries now that have kind of taken the graceful kind of gifts from China and now are defaulting on their loans and other things and are realizing the ramifications of it. I've heard a couple countries in Africa now have defaulted on their loans, and China was just like, well, your port belongs to us now, and other things such as that. I think with Afghanistan, what you'll find, though, is that even with a peaceful takeover, you're still going to have a lot of that tribal warfare that's just going to keep going regardless of who's in there.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of that now, the ramifications of it. And interestingly, I read on a page that I like and I follow. It's a guy does a lot of really good economic analysis. His username on Instagram is Flirt Cheat Mitch. No one can see this right now, but he just
he looks like he's from Green Day.
He
His
just
emo phase is
styled
starting.
his hair into like the My Chemical Romance fucking. It works for you. Maybe you should keep it like that.
I think you should.
I've never had my hair this long in my life.
Yeah. I read a really good article from Flirt Cheap about how China has kind of spread themselves really too thin in terms of their economic development, specifically in the building of infrastructure and ghost cities. And there's going to be a time where it all comes due. And it's coming faster and faster.
Though that being said, one thing I pointed out when I was at work the other day. So Mitch, last time I was there, I was on the ship, but now I'm actually at the headquarters. So kind of change of pace, change of focus. But looking and reading about what all the countries are doing, such as the U.S. and other European nations, it seems like everyone around us is preparing for a test. United States, Australia, the United Kingdom doing exercise and other things. China operating with Russia and other things. And then it's like Canada is that one country that's not studying for the test. They're like, it's going to be fine. we know the answers. It's like, I don't think we do.
No.
That's what it really feels like. Everyone else is gearing up for something, and we're just like go us, I guess.
Go us.
I mean, weren't you guys letting like Chinese troops train in your country for a while and stuff like that?
Yeah, it wasn't like Chinese troops. It was like some of their staff officers were invited to come like watch an exercise, and our generals got a lot of backlash for that. I'm not sure if it happened. I'd have to look on it.
Yeah, I
wonder
heard
why
it
they
was a
got
detachment
backlash
of
for
like
that.
4 officers or something.
But even so, they were watching us come do like Arctic operations or winter operations, and just like probably not a great idea right now because they're not a friendly country.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd be like during the Cold War, letting the Russians come watch us do like missile drills.
Sub-testing and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I wonder why they got a lot of backlash for, inviting a bunch of generals from a country that's committing a genocide right now.
Yeah, but the funny thing is too, from up on high, the politicians were like tried to let it happen and tried to make the backlash go away.
Yeah.
Nathan, get your people in order.
I don't have anything to do with
You
those
need to go
fucking
vote, man.
people. Yeah.
Well,
the podcast episodes are always much better when the racism comes out.
there's no racism.
Oh God.
Mitch, we spent like half an hour ranking on people groups we don't like.
Yeah, but probably going to cut that out. So, including this part.
Yes.
Thank God for editors,
Sure.
man.
I don't know. We did keep that administrative results one about obese people.
Yeah, that's obese.
Yeah, but
people,
I'm
man.
fine with making fun of fat people. Well, Rob, I really appreciate you coming on. Getting on 2 hours, and my daughter is coming home soon with my wife, so I'm going to go watch football and hang out with them for the rest of the day. But please take the time to talk about yourself. I know you're a very humble person, but plug yourself, plug everything that's going on with you so people can find you and help out with the causes that you're helping with.
Absolutely, man. Here, I got this little cheat sheet that my girlfriend gave me, so luckily this will help me out. Basically, everyone come check out Reddit. It's reddit.com/r/tacticalgear. Total madness,
Yes,
absolute
you
animal
created
house.
Reddit, didn't you?
What was that?
You created Reddit, didn't you? You are come check out.
No. I'm just a mod on there. Some other people made that shit, so don't blame me for the nonsense that you see.
No, I mean like you formed the company. I'm fairly sure.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I'm a billionaire now. That's why.
Yes.
So check out Reddit, reddit.com/r/tacticalgear. Check out OperationDogDrop.com. We do have a deadline of December 15th that we need to finish raising the funds for our first dog, and we really need the community to kind of help pull us through on that. So please head over to our website, OperationDogDrop.com. You can find the link to our GoFundMe page. You can also just PayPal money directly to us. So please send what you can. If you can't send anything, please tell other people so we can get this done and get it done right. You can also hit me up with questions, Robert@OperationDogDrop.com, Lefty_Gunner on Instagram. But yeah, that's pretty much it, man. Just come donate some money so we can give a dog to somebody who really needs it. Awesome. Thanks, guys. Y'all are the best. I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, anytime. But thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
as
thanks for
always.
coming on. I don't know if you guys can hear, but my wife and kid just got home. My baby's crying in the background.
Oh yeah. Go deal with Mitch stuff.
Yeah, go be a dad, man. That's the most
I will.
important job of all.
As soon as we plug our sponsors, she can wait 2 minutes while we talk about AWS and applied gear.
Yes.
AWS, the Costco of the belt world, except the battle belt world. Go get their SMU belt. Actually, all 3 of us run it.
Yeah.
Isaac doesn't because he's a fucking loser, but all 3 of us run it.
Love it.
You use code ArtandWar10 to get $10 off a SMU belt, and use code ArtandWar5 at Applied Gear and get yourself an everyday carry belt. Great stuff.
Nice belts. I got one of those
Yes,
too,
I
man.
started wearing my Applied Gear belt, and it's really nice.
Dude, get the plate carrier too.
Really nice.
SMU plate carrier, super comfortable, and then compact dump pouch. That is the pro tip of the year. Compact dump pouch.
Oh yeah, we all have their plate carrier
interesting.
too.
They may be shipping to Canada.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll get in on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all 3. I just realized all 3 of us run their plate carrier and belt. Look at us.
Yeah. Go fucking up us.
Look at us. Okay.
All right. Go be with your kids, man.
Nathan, closing remarks.
I am so sorry, Xi Jinping, for my horrible words against your people and you. I love Chinese government. Taiwan is not a country.
Not even a little bit.
Ni hao ma. Yeah.
I would not apologize to Winnie the Pooh.
Don't. Yes, your Pooh Highness.
Actually, let's get closing advice from Isaac, our random guest that popped in for the last 15 minutes.
Yes.
Closing remarks?
Yep.
None really. I'll steal from Grantham. Just be kind to people.
Yes. Always do your make sure you do your dishes before you go
do
to
your
bed.
dishes. Floss your teeth, people. Seriously, floss your teeth.
Floss your teeth. It's
so important. Easiest thing in the world. Just floss your teeth. Your
Yeah.
life improves greatly from there.
Yes.
Okay, bye.